In this video, we'll discuss world-building tropical rainforests, where rainforests can be found across an Earth-like planet, and how to create some interesting flora and fauna to populate their ecosystems. Hey everyone, my name is Matthew, at least at this level of humidity, and this video is part of a series where I'll be going through a science-adjacent world-building process step by step. Last time, we established the foundations for the Tree of Life on our fictional world of Locus, detailing all the groups of flora and fauna that we'll be using moving forward. If you've missed that video, the link to it should be here. For today's video, we're going to be zooming in on the tropical rainforest biomes, discussing not only how rainforests are classified, but also looking at their geography and ecosystems, establishing which flora and fauna are important to rainforests before detailing how to create some fictional organisms of our own. So, without further ado, welcome to the World Building Corner. Alright, let's do this. Tropical rainforests, according to the Köppen climate classification system, are classified as areas in which there is no dry season, with all months having average precipitation values of at least 60 millimeters, and temperatures and humidity being similar all year round. Rainforests are distinguished by a closed and continuous canopy, with much of the vegetation being moisture dependent, and the conditions here are simply too wet for regular wildfires. On Earth-like planets, tropical rainforest spread is heavily dependent on surface temperatures and winds. When people think of the equator, they usually think of hot deserts. But providing the temperature doesn't get too hot, then the equator is actually dominated by lush tropical rainforests. As evaporation from the oceans occurs, the water vapor in the atmosphere increases, which is called humidity. It is this humidity that rainforests thrive in. Across the equator, the intertropical convergence zone is a low-pressure zone, with very little wind, allowing for water vapor to settle and not be blown away. Therefore, it's most common for tropical rainforests to occur within the equatorial zones, giving them the very creative name of equatorial climates. Tropical rainforests that occur outside of the intertropical convergence zone are referred to as tropical trade wind rainforests, and are much rarer, due to the wind affecting the humidity levels. If your planet is like Earth, with similar winds and surface temperatures, then you can place your tropical rainforests along the intertropical convergence zone, reaching 10 degrees north and south in continental interiors, slowly tapering off as they reach towards the coasts, which would look something like this. If your planet is cooler than Earth, like our fictional world of Locus is, then less evaporation occurs, which decreases overall humidity, making tropical rainforests less extensive, shrinking further towards the equator. Locus's average surface temperature is around 10 degrees Celsius, and its tropical rainforest coverage will look more like this. If your planet is warmer than modern Earth, then things start to get a little wacky. If the average surface temperature is only a little warmer than Earth, then there will be a reduction in overall tropical rainforest coverage, due to it simply being too hot on the equator for many trees to survive. If average surface temperatures are way higher than modern Earth though, sitting around 5 to 10 degrees Celsius warmer, then tropical rainforests would start to form around other low-pressure, low-wind zones, which, if your wind patterns are the same as Earth, occur at the polar fronts. This might sound ridiculous, but it's actually reasonably well established that Antarctica was once host to extensive rainforests, back when the Earth was much warmer. On a really hot planet like this, there'd be little to no equatorial rainforests, but instead you might have polar rainforests. For Locus, however, we know that its atmosphere, rotation, and wind zones are similar to Earth, and that its temperature is slightly cooler, so this is the rainforest coverage that we'll be going with. For any Earth-like planet supporting life, rainforests are easily the greatest source of biodiversity, with around 60% of all organisms calling rainforests their home. In fact, there is such a high level of biomass that ecologists separate rainforests into 4 distinct layers: the forest floor, the understory, the canopy, and the emergent layer, each with their own ecosystems and unique flora and fauna. Let's discuss some of the iconic and keystone species that are important to Earth's rainforests and create some of our own for locus. Perhaps most importantly, rainforests require trees that will make up, well, the forest itself. Specifically, rainforest trees have to create a dense canopy that blocks sunlight from reaching the lower layers. The most common rainforest trees on Earth are an Amazonian palm tree called Euterpe Precatoria, with a tall, slender trunk that branches out into fan-like leaves at the very top of the tree. For locus, let's create 2 similar trees, the Euterpe and the Koistinen, with both clustering most of their leaves at the top of their trunk, branching upwards and outwards, allowing them to reach the emergent layer and sunlight more easily. As the rainforest is filled with these trees at various growth stages, Euterpe and Koistinen are present and important at all levels of the rainforest. Both species are phorophytes, which refers to a type of tree that are the habitat for other flora that grow on them, rather than with roots in the ground. Organisms that grow on phorophytes are called epiphytes, and the relationship between the two is referred to as commensalism, which is a type of symbiosis, where one species gains benefits while the other is neither benefited nor harmed. Non-tree flora present within the understory layer would almost exclusively be epiphytes, growing off of Euterpe and Koistinen for support. The understory has more sunlight present than the forest floor, and is exceptionally humid and warm, creating a perfect environment for flora to thrive. Many species develop beautifully coloured flowers and fruits, and the understory would be a visually vibrant ecosystem. Many plants and flowers that most people are familiar with, from houseplants to garden plants, are native to the understory of tropical rainforests, including the well-known philodendrons, gardenias, and holly plants. Edible fruits and other vegetation are also common among the understory, including but not limited to cacao beans, bananas, figs, avocados, and acai berries. Many citrus fruits also trace their origins back to the tropical rainforests. If you're wanting to world build any kind of unique and striking flowers or nutritious fruits, here is the place to do so. On locus, the Euterpe we created earlier produce a vividly coloured cyan blue fruit called cutie berries that are high in sugar content, while the Koistinen trees produce powerfully smelling nuts, simply called crass, that are rich in micronutrients, each encouraging creatures to eat them, which in turn helps with their pollination process. By offering different nutritional values, the 2 trees can share pollinators, reducing their competition with each other. Also standing out among the rainforest flora is the star-shaped crimson-coloured Ignis stella, which utilise the fictional process of energy synthesis to generate their own energy. Here is a link to my video on energy synthesis for more information on how it works. The Ignis stella converts any excess energy generated into heat, which gather within its flowers that have evolved to be resistant to high temperatures, and protect Ignis stella from being eaten, effectively burning any creature that tries to touch them. As it reaches maturity, its built-up energy and heat reach a pinnacle, which causes the flowers to ignite small spot fires, and eventually burst into flame entirely. This flame then triggers seed release from the Ignis stella, making it necessary for the organism to reproduce. Within the rainforest, the highly damp environment prevents the fire from spreading, and often combustion events only last a few seconds, which isn't enough to destroy the heat-resistant flowers. Taken out of its regular humid environment, however, Ignostella can easily ignite and stay lit, which, unsurprisingly, kills the plant. So we've looked at the tall trees and colourful humid understory, but what about the rainforest floor? While most photosynthetic flora don't have access to enough sunlight to thrive here, fungi can be found across the rainforest floors in abundance, feeding on the decomposing matter that litters the floor from above. On Locus, the analogues to fungi are the psyllium, and though many different types are abundant among the rainforests, it is the mortavello that is perhaps the most interesting. As members of the corpus phyla, they are psyllium that have evolved to feed on decomposing flesh rather than vegetation. Mortavello has also evolved a unique method of reproduction. It's become a parasite that hijacks the motor functions of deceased creatures, functionally reanimating them after they've died. These reanimated dead have very little semblance of their previous cognition, and infected corpses can only use basic jerky movements, becoming hyper-aggressive and having their mouths loaded with mortavello spores, spreading them to other creatures through their bites. Infected bodies are slowly eaten by mortavello, and living creatures that are infected will slowly die as they're eaten alive. Once deceased, mortavello takes over and can continue to animate a corpse until only bones remain. Outbreaks of mortavello can completely decimate an ecosystem, though at some point, infected creatures may be unsuccessful in spreading their spores, and the outbreak fizzles out. With the sheer amount of biodiversity present, it's possible to world build effectively any type of creature that you'd like within a tropical rainforest. And there aren't too many constraints besides ensuring that the creatures can survive in hot and humid conditions. On Earth, some iconic rainforest inhabitants include the ferocious jaguars, the curious lemurs, and the tree-dwelling snakes and frogs. In Earth's history, tropical rainforests were also heavily dominated by a wide variety of dinosaurs, which were well adapted to life on a much hotter, more humid Earth. On Locus, the two main classes for larger creatures are Frigidae and Calidae, and the Calidae are furred creatures, and so are probably not well suited for life among the tropics. This means the tropical rainforests would be dominated by the cold-blooded, scaly Frigidae, among which their orders are directly inspired by lizards, including dinosaurs and crocodiles. And so we can draw from a lot of existing inspiration to make our fictional rainforest dwellers. Magnemore are a family of hypercarnivores that are rulers of the rainforest, with colossal body sizes and terrifying bite forces that rival those of saltwater crocodiles and the largest carnivorous dinosaurs. Some individual species are more amphibious than others, but across the board all Magnemore lay their eggs in water. They are, unsurprisingly, apex predators, and due to their incredible sizes, they're mostly solo creatures, with territory that is so extensive that very few would exist across the planet. Like most Calidae, females are larger than males, and they almost always accept mating advances from males, though often turn on them after mating, making their encounters dangerous, almost always violent, and occasionally fatal. The next important creature we'll discuss are the Visic, the largest planipede across the entire planet, which are analogous to insects. This chitinous creature moves in a slithering motion across the rainforest floor, with rows of small legs underneath its body, similar to a millipede. Despite their literally creepy appearance, Visic are herbivorous, with its diet consisting mostly of pilia, supplemented with whatever folia it can reach from the forest floor. As they shuffle across the forest floor, they clear paths that are clearly visible throughout the rainforest, that are then used by a wide variety of other creatures for navigation. In addition, whilst their reproductive and behavioural patterns are not particularly extraordinary, Vesic are responsible for consuming and dispersing many of the rainforest's seeds. These important ecological roles therefore make Vesic keystone species, and the many other species present within the rainforests of Locus are dependent on the Vesic to keep their habitat alive. Finally, among the notable creatures of the tropical rainforests are the Nota, a family within the Arborescensis order. If it isn't abundantly clear why their family is called the familiar family, then hello, non-human viewer, it's a pleasure to meet you. The Nota live among the upper understory and canopy and consider both as their territory. They're one of the few types of Calidae that thrive within the tropics and have evolved far thinner fur to compensate. They're also nocturnal, sleeping during the day when it's warmest, and are active at night when temperatures drop. Nota live in communities of up to 50 individuals, with both an alpha male and female leading the community. Males collectively hunt prey that they return to their communities, while females gather and stockpile fruit and nuts to be distributed. If you are a human viewer, then it'll be unsurprising to you that Nota are one of the first creatures across Locus to utilise tools in their day-to-day life. They also clasp their hands together in a prayer-like motion, as a form of social greeting and sign of non-violence, similar to how humans smile and nod at each other. This is just one of many forms of communication that Nota use, with others including complex vocalizations and calls, hand signals, and grooming. Therefore, predictably, Nota are one of the more intelligent creatures across the planet, and we'll certainly be bearing them in mind when we establish which creatures are going to evolve to develop civilizations of their own. So, to recap, rainforests are equatorial climates that are possible due to the exceptional humidity that exists within the intertropical convergence zone. We placed where the tropical rainforests will be located on our map and determined some of the integral flora within the region, designing some of our own fictional equivalents before also creating some iconic and keystone creatures to inhabit the region. Join me next time where we'll move poleward from the tropical rainforests to talk about the savanna biomes. You can find all the information for this video as well as other resources for world building in general over at worldbuildingcorner.com. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to follow the world building journey. And until next time, stay awesome.